Story 1. We should have never entered that cabin. I'm not the kind of guy who believes in ghosts, or spirits, or any of that paranormal stuff. But what happened to me and my friends in the fall of 2016 changed everything. We were four: me, Jason, my girlfriend Mia, our friend Chris, and his cousin Lauren. We were all in college, burnt out from exams, and decided to take a weekend trip to this cabin that Chris found on an old forum. Yeah, not Airbnb, some sketchy-ass forum post that just said, "Private cabin, peaceful retreat, off-grid, dirt cheap." Red flags? Yeah. But we were broke students. Cheap sounded good. So we drove 4 hours into the mountains of Oregon. No signal for miles. No street lights, no gas stations. Just pine trees, fog, and that eerie kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. We reached the cabin just before sunset. It looked abandoned, like no one had touched it in years. The windows were dirty. The wood was splintered. And yet somehow the inside was clean. Too clean. There was no electricity. Just oil lamps and a fireplace. Everything inside looked preserved. Like someone still lived there but hadn't shown up in a while. That first night we sat around the fireplace, shared drinks, told dumb ghost stories. Around midnight the fireplace suddenly went out, like someone blew on it. Chris tried relighting it, but the matches kept going out. Mia started getting uncomfortable. She said it felt like someone was in the room with us. I laughed it off, until I saw the reflection. In the dark glass of the window behind Lauren, there was someone, a tall, pale figure. No face, just standing there. When I turned to look, nothing. But the window was ice cold. Next morning we found footprints. Bare footprints, all around the cabin, leading to the forest, and one of them was on the inside of the front door. That's when Lauren told us something that made my stomach drop. She'd woken up in the middle of the night and saw someone crawling on the ceiling of the hallway. She thought it was a dream, until she showed us the scratch marks above her bed. We tried to leave. Swear to God the car wouldn't start. Chris opened the hood. Everything looked fine. Battery strong. Gas full. Just wouldn't turn over. It was like something was keeping us there. That night was worse. Mia started hearing whispering outside the bedroom door. I stayed up with her, holding a flashlight. At 3:33 a.m. we heard it. Knocking. From under the bed. Slow. Deliberate. 3 knocks. I grabbed the flashlight, dropped to the floor. Nothing there. But the knocking didn't stop. It moved, under the floor. To the hallway. Then to the walls. Then the ceiling. It was like something was crawling around us. Trapping us. Chris started shouting from the living room. We ran out and found him pointing at the wall. The wood had changed. There was a symbol burned into it. A circle with jagged edges and 2 eyes. The same symbol was on the old rug we had moved earlier. We tore the rug up completely and found a trapdoor underneath. We opened it. There was a staircase leading down into a crawl space, no wider than a closet. Cold air blasted up like a freezer. The walls down there were covered in old photos. All of different people. All staring at the camera. No smiles. Just wide, terrified eyes. And one of the photos was us, sitting by the fireplace, taken the night before. We burned everything. The photos, the rug, the mattress. I don't know if it did anything. But the next morning the car worked. First try. We didn't speak the entire ride back. None of us slept for days. Mia had nightmares for months. Chris never spoke about it again. Lauren moved out of town. But here's the thing. 2 weeks ago, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo of me, sitting in this exact chair, telling this story. And behind me, there's a shadow. Story 2. Rented a cabin in the woods. It was pure evil. This happened back in 2009. I needed a break. Life was getting too loud, work stress, city chaos, nonstop noise. So I decided to take my family, my wife Olivia, our daughter Emily, 15 at the time, and our son Noah, who was just 10, on a peaceful vacation away from everything. We found this cabin online. Pictures look beautiful. A wooden house in the middle of a forest in Washington. No neighbors, no phone signal, no distractions. Exactly what we needed. We booked it for a week. On the way there, we stopped at a small town to fuel up and get groceries. I remember asking a local guy for directions. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't stay there after dark." No explanation. Just turned and walked away. I laughed it off. Thought maybe he was one of those small-town weirdos who didn't like outsiders. We kept driving. The road got narrower. Trees started closing in. And finally there it was, the cabin. From the outside it looked peaceful. Quiet. Too quiet, honestly. Like nature had hit the mute button. No wind, no birds, no rustling, just silence. It didn't sit right with me, but I pushed the thought aside. Maybe I was just not used to real quiet anymore. The first night started off fine. We cooked, played some card games, told stories by the fireplace. But around 3 a.m. I woke up to this soft tapping sound. At first, I figured it was a tree branch against the window. But it wasn't just one window. I heard it on the living room window, then the one in the hallway, then on Emily's window. Tap, tap, tap. Then Noah walked into our room. He looked half asleep. His eyes were wide open, but his face was blank. He said, "They're calling me from outside." I asked him who. He just pointed toward the front door. My blood ran cold. Next morning, Emily went exploring and found a small, dusty attic. Inside was a leather-bound journal, tied up in fabric. It belonged to a girl named Lily. She used to live in that cabin back in the 1950s. The journal started off innocent enough. She wrote about living there with her parents, exploring the woods, drawing, reading. But halfway through, the entries turned dark. She started hearing voices at night. Then she started seeing things, black-eyed children in the woods, shadows standing at her window. She kept writing one phrase over and over again. "They whisper at 3:14 a.m. She drew symbols. Weird, twisted symbols. And these horrible, faceless figures. It wasn't imagination. You could feel the fear in her writing. That night, the whispers started. Not loud, just enough to freeze your blood. You couldn't tell where they were coming from. It felt like they were in the walls or right behind you, but every time you turned around, nothing. The next day, I heard this scratching and dragging noise from under the floor. I looked around and found this old rug in the living room. Moved it and there it was, a trapdoor. No idea how we missed it before. I opened it, and there was a narrow wooden staircase leading down into complete darkness. I grabbed a flashlight and went down. The basement was small, maybe the size of a bathroom. The air was damp and heavy. In the middle of the room there was a stone slab, an altar, and around it bones, dozens of them. Some animal, but a few, way too small. I don't want to say it out loud, but you know what I mean. The walls were covered in carvings, symbols just like the ones in Lily's journal. Emily came down after me and pointed at one. "That's exactly what she drew," she said. That's when I realized this wasn't just some old cabin. Someone used this place for something, some kind of ritual. And whatever it was, it left something behind. We decided to leave the next morning. We packed everything, got the kids ready, and tried to start the car. Nothing. Dead. Battery was completely fine the day before. No phone signal. Even the battery-powered flashlight started flickering. It was like something didn't want us to leave. That final night. I still can't explain what happened. At exactly 3:14 a.m., every light in the house started flickering. Then complete darkness. The whispering came back, louder this time. All around us. like dozens of voices, overlapping, hissing, breathing in our ears. And then, we saw it. This tall, pitch-black figure standing at the end of the hallway. No face, no details, just a silhouette. Watching. Not moving. Just standing there. Noah started sleepwalking again. But this time his voice changed. Wrong. He said in a woman's voice, "You shouldn't be here." Emily screamed. Olivia grabbed Noah. I lit the journal on fire right there in the fireplace. As it burned, we heard this horrible screech. Not from a human. Not even from an animal. It felt like the house was screaming. And then silence. By morning, the car started on the first try. We left without looking back. Drove until we hit the highway and didn't say a word for hours. 2 weeks later, Emily started sketching the symbols again without realizing it. Noah would talk in his sleep, whispering things like, "They're still watching." I found a photo on my phone that I never took, a shot of our living room from that cabin, and in the corner of the frame, just barely visible, was that same dark figure. I don't know what we brought back with us, or if it ever really left. All I know is, if you ever find a perfect-looking cabin deep in the woods, dirt cheap, no neighbors, no signal, don't go. Some places aren't abandoned. They're waiting. Story 3. I thought this cabin would be peaceful. It was a nightmare I'll never forget. I don't know how to start this, honestly. I've never told anyone the full story because every time I do, people just give me that look, like I'm either crazy or lying. But I swear, everything I'm about to say is 100% real. This happened in 2018. I had just gone through a rough breakup, my job was stressing me the hell out, and I needed space. Mental space. I didn't want to talk to anyone, see anyone, nothing. I just wanted to be alone. So, I rented this cabin in Montana. It was super remote. I'm talking middle of nowhere, no cell service, the nearest neighbor was like 10 miles out. The Airbnb listing said, "Perfect solitude for creatives and thinkers." Sounded poetic. Sounded perfect. I drove out there late on a Friday. The road leading to the cabin was this long, winding dirt path through dense pine forest. I had to get out twice to move fallen branches. It was already creepy, and I hadn't even gotten there yet. When I pulled up, the cabin looked fine. Cozy even. Wooden structure. Nice porch, firewood stacked neatly on the side. I stepped inside, and immediately something felt off. You know that gut feeling you get when someone's watching you? I had that the entire time. But I shook it off. Told myself I was just being paranoid. City brain trying to adjust to forest silence. I unpacked, lit a fire, poured a drink, and sat on the porch watching the sky turn black. Then the forest went quiet. No crickets. No wind. No distant owls. Just silence. And then, I heard breathing. Not mine. Not an animal. It was heavy, wet breathing, like someone struggling through a mask. It was coming from the tree line. I couldn't see anything, just pitch black. I stayed inside after that. The next night it got worse. I was reading in bed when I heard footsteps. On the roof. Slow, careful steps. Then something like fingernails scraping wood. Not like an animal, like someone deliberately dragging their hand across the roof. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. Nothing. But I noticed muddy handprints on the bedroom window. 5 fingers. Long, too long. I was alone. No one else was supposed to be there. I started keeping a knife on me after that. Then came the third night. I woke up around 3 a.m., dead silence. Not a single sound. No fire crackling, no bugs, no wind. That's when I noticed my bedroom door was slightly open. I never leave it open. Ever. I got up, stepped into the hallway, and there, at the end, was a person. Just standing. Still. Not moving. I shined my flashlight, and it didn't work. completely dead. I whispered, "Hello?" No answer. Then they tilted their head, slowly, like a damn puppet. And then, they walked backward into the shadows. Not turned around. They walked backwards, perfectly still, into the dark like they'd practiced it 1,000 times. I slammed the bedroom door, blocked it with the dresser, and sat in the corner holding my knife, till sunrise. I left that morning. Didn't even pack. Just got in the car and floored it. I reported it to the sheriff's office in the nearby town. They said they'd look into it. The deputy didn't even seem surprised. He just said, "That cabin's been empty for years. We don't rent that place out anymore." I was like, "No." I booked it online through Airbnb. They checked. There was no listing, no record, nothing. And here's the worst part. When I got home, I went through my photos. Just one picture had saved. It was a selfie I took the first night, me on the porch. But in the window behind me, there was a face, white, smiling, watching me. Story 4. We found a hidden room in the cabin. We should have never opened it. Alright. I don't even know how to start this, man. I haven't told anyone the full story before, partly because it sounds insane and partly because even I still don't understand what happened. But if you're watching this, just know, what I'm about to tell you is real. And I really wish we'd never gone to that cabin. So this was in late 2021. I'm a writer, right? Burned out, stuck, couldn't think straight. My best friend Ryan, he's a photographer, told me about this rental cabin way out in the Blue Ridge Mountains. No Wi-Fi, no neighbors, no signal. Just total off-grid peace. Sounded perfect. I booked it for the weekend. Ryan came along for the drive, said he'd hang for a couple nights and shoot the forest or whatever. Dude, from the moment we pulled up to that place, it felt wrong. I don't mean like horror movie wrong. I mean like your body knows before your brain does. The air felt too still. The trees were too quiet. The cabin looked fine in pictures, but in real life, it looked old. Not run down. Just like it hadn't been touched in decades. Inside it was weird. Heavy wood everywhere. Antique furniture. Paintings of people we didn't recognize, all staring straight ahead with blank eyes. There was a smell too, like old rain and burnt paper. There was this journal on the table. Thick, leather-bound. At first we thought it was like a guest book, but the entries were disturbing. Stuff like, "It watches from the creek," and "Don't look in the mirror after dark." And then this one line. We opened the wrong door. We laughed it off. Told ourselves it was just edgy guests messing around. That night, around midnight, I was inside reading. Ryan went out with his camera to try and shoot the stars. Maybe 10 minutes go by and he comes back inside looking pale as hell. He said he saw someone standing in the creek. Not walking, not moving, just standing waist deep in the water, staring toward the cabin. But here's the weird part, his camera had taken like 40+ photos, and every single one was black. Next morning we went to check the creek. Nothing. No footprints, no signs anyone had been there. But there was a strip of cloth stuck on a tree root near the water, like from a dress or something. Burned on one side. That whole day just felt heavy, like the woods were watching us. Then Ryan finds this small hidden door behind the bookshelf in the bedroom. About 4 feet tall, old padlock on it, scratch marks all around the edges. We argued for like 15 minutes, but he grabbed a crowbar and popped it open. Behind that door was this narrow tunnel like a crawl space. Dirt walls, wood beams, old air. We crawled through and reached this tiny room, maybe 6 by 6 feet. Completely empty except for an old mirror. Silver frame. Dusty. But on the glass, in smeared red chalk or something, it said, "Don't look too long." Of course we looked. That night, Ryan started acting off. He wasn't talking much. just kept staring at the walls, pacing. I woke up at like 2:30 a.m. and found him just standing in the dark outside my door. Not saying anything, just standing there. When I called his name, he kind of snapped out of it, no memory of why he was there. The next morning, we decided to go back to the tunnel to smash the mirror. But when we got to the crawl space, the mirror was gone. Just the frame was left, and behind it, a hole in the wall. Like a vent, but deeper. Cold air poured out, and from inside that hole we heard wind and whispers. Like actual whispers, clear as day. We sealed the little door back up and tried to pretend none of it happened. But that night, everything went to hell. Around 2 a.m. the cabin went completely dark. The oil lamps blew out. Every light was gone. No sound outside. Not even the trees. Then, tapping. On the windows. On the walls. Above us. Beneath us. Like something was crawling inside the walls. Ryan started screaming from the other room. I ran in, he was pointing at the bedroom mirror. And I swear to God, there were eyes in it. Dozens. Just floating. Not ours. Not reflections. Bloodshot. Blinking. Watching us. We tried to leave, door was stuck. Felt like it was glued shut. Like the whole cabin was breathing. The banging got louder. The journal on the table was open again, to a new page. If it saw you, you need to burn it. We grabbed lamp oil and matches, dumped it near the hidden door and lit it up. Smoke poured out black. The screams we heard that night weren't human. We got out. Don't even remember how. Drove through the night until we hit cell signal. Called the local sheriff. They came out, and this part is gonna sound fake, but I swear it's what they told us. That cabin? It burned down 10 years ago. Lightning strike. Total loss. There was no rental listing. No property in that area matched what we described. They said it didn't exist. I still don't know what the hell we walked into. Ryan hasn't spoken since that weekend. He just stares out the window now, like he's still in it. And me? Sometimes I wake up at night and see the mirror in my room fog up, like someone's breathing on the other side. Story 5. Something was living under the cabin, and it wasn't human. This took place in upstate New York, October 2022. My cousin Derek and I had planned a weekend trip out to a cabin his friend's family owned. Totally off-grid. No Wi-Fi, no electricity, just a wood stove, a creek, and a generator that barely worked. We drove in through this narrow forest road. You could tell no one had been out there in a while. The trees were overgrown, and the path was so thin it scratched the sides of my Jeep. The moment we stepped out, I noticed something weird. The air smelled like wet metal. Blood almost. I figured it was just the damp woods or some animal nearby. The cabin looked fine. Old, yeah, but livable. Inside was simple. One bedroom, a loft, fireplace, and a creepy-ass crawlspace door in the kitchen floor. That first night, we lit a fire, had some beers, and sat on the porch just talking. Around midnight, we heard something scratching under the floorboards. I thought it might be raccoons or something. Derek goes, "Nah, that's bigger than a raccoon." It sounded like something was pacing, dragging something, like nails, on wood. Next morning, we went to check out the crawl space, but the hatch was stuck, like something was pushing up from the inside. Derek tried to force it open, but it wouldn't budge. Then he noticed a mark next to the hatch. It looked like a handprint, but it had 6 fingers. I told him it was probably just some warped wood pattern or fungus. But deep down, I knew better. That second night it got worse. Around 2 a.m. we heard whispering. I swear on everything, whispering. But it wasn't outside. It was inside the walls. Right behind our heads. And it wasn't English. Derek jumped up, grabbed the flashlight, which started flickering like crazy the moment he turned it on. And then, silence. for like 5 seconds. Total silence. And then, thump. Right beneath our feet. Like someone slamming a fist on the underside of the floor. We didn't sleep that night. The next day Derek wanted to leave. I said yes, but the Jeep wouldn't start. Battery was dead, completely drained. The nearest signal was over 12 miles away. We were stuck. I remember sitting on the porch that afternoon just listening, and I heard this sound coming from the woods. It wasn't an animal. Sounded like laughter, but wrong. Like it didn't understand how to laugh. Like it was imitating. That night, Derek said screw it, he wanted to open the hatch. He got a crowbar and wedged it under the edge, and the thing finally popped open. The smell that hit us was rancid. Like something dead rotting underground. We aimed the flashlight down, and what we saw, I still can't explain, was a tunnel. Not a crawl space, a full-on tunnel, sloping downward, lined with claw marks and bone fragments. Dozens of them. Human-sized, and in the corner was a pile of toys. Rusty. Like they'd been buried there for decades. Then Derek saw something move. Just the eyes. 2 glowing dots at the far end. Blinking. Watching. The flashlight cut out. We slammed the hatch shut and piled furniture on top of it. And just when we thought it was over, we heard footsteps on the porch. Slow. Heavy. Bare feet, then scratching at the front door, like someone dragging nails across the wood. We didn't answer. We just sat there, frozen, holding knives. The noise stopped around 4 a.m. When the sun came up, the Jeep started like nothing happened. We were out of there in under 2 minutes. A few weeks later, I looked up the land records. That cabin belonged to a family that went missing in the 70s. Only one thing was found, the oldest daughter's diary buried under the floorboards in that tunnel. The last page said, "This story gave you chills? Just wait for what's coming next. Don't forget to subscribe to SKP Haunted Chronicles, like the video, and drop a comment to let me know you survived till the end. More horror is on the way. And trust me, it only gets darker from here."